Today, I want to talk a little bit more about the D7 prevention. Last week, when I put my video up on the ship, I called it a fun ship that I think is well worth pursuing. But I don't know whether I really answered the question, is it a good ship? Is it a carry capable ship? This game is going to give you an indication of that. This is, I think, the highest damage I have so far achieved in the D7P, and of course it's also a CV game. Before we go any further into the discussion about the D7P itself, let me just say something very quick about the new CV update. Ministry of Balance article was published last Friday. An update has been performed on the game today, and a bunch of CVs have had some parameters changed. Mostly things like dive bomber accuracy being reduced, dive bomber damage being reduced, fire chance being reduced, even speed being reduced in a lot of cases. These changes are fine. Certainly the damage output on these CVs is a little bit cracked at the moment, or it was prior to this update. I don't know exactly how far they will go toward fixing that problem, but I think ultimately the issue with the CV damage output will probably not be fixed until they do something to address a combination of both the infinite speed boost that every CV has and the coked up, let's call it plain regen numbers. Those probably need to be toned down, because if you can send your squadrons across the map at full speed, even if you do have a limited range, theoretically, but if you can send them across the map at full speed, and every single time they're doing their full damage potential or close to it, well, of course their damage output is going to be insane. I think the regen really needs to be adjusted, and I haven't seen any of that in these patch notes, so we'll see how things go. But as for this match, we spawned over here on the Two Brothers map, come over to Delta along with a friendly battleship and destroyer. The enemy Benson is spotted inside of the capture circle, and our main battery guns are doing a decent job at whittling him down. The friendly destroyer, who is going to come in handy during this game, actually, he's probably going to be the MVP of the match in terms of friendly teammates. He takes out the Benson, and the cap is clear for the battleship, apparently, to capture. Colorado's coming in, so we're launching some of the airstrikes. You can see that the first drop was not ideal, just catches him on the bow. Second drop lands, what is that, 12 bombs, 9 of them pen, fire, and then the third set completely misses as well. But Colorado's lost a lot of HP. He's coming around the corner here. We're debating, do we want to actually shoot at him? One of the things that sort of prevents the D7P from perhaps being a carry-capable ship is something that's going to come back and bite us later on in the game, and that is the utter lack of armor protection. We've only got really 25 millimeters everywhere except for the deck, which is 27. In any case, the Colorado's 406 millimeter guns can overmatch every part of that armor scheme except for the belt armor protecting the Citadel, which, to be fair, is not all that thick, and the Citadel is at least exposed above the waterline in the center of the ship. So this is a very, very dev-strikeable ship, and the Colorado really only needs to get lucky once. We hit him there again as he's kiting away with the airstrike and light what I think there is a permanent fire. He, of course, decides to retaliate against us with his 16-inch guns, and he does get a fairly decent hit, removing a lot of hit points from the stern of the ship, but it's not catastrophic damage, and he is burning quite nicely. The friendly battleship that spawned with us and came over here toward Delta has for some reason exited the cap and is now heading toward Bravo from the enemy spawn. Meanwhile, a good majority of the team went up the center of the Two Brothers map, and one of the destroyers has reached the Bravo cap as well, so it is turning blue. But the friendly battleship, he is of course fighting two enemy battleships that are kiting away from him, and he can angle against them. I just don't know if pushing up through this capture circle into the Benson and into these two battleships is really going to work out all that well for him. But in any case, the Delta cap is secure, and if we can eliminate the Colorado and the other battleship out here, then maybe we can push into Bravo as well. But if you look to the other side of the map, you'll notice the alpha flank has completely fallen. The blue presence there has been eliminated. The cap is red, and the friendly CV, who started this game in the spawn somewhere between Alpha and Charlie, is still sitting in the exact same place as the enemy pushes south through the Alpha cap, which means he is probably going to be headed back to port shortly. And that is not going to be great for our team, because the enemy CV, he's not really under much of a threat. Meanwhile, the expeditionary force that went up the channel has now exited the channel and is focusing fire on the Colorado and Iowa over here. We are trying to keep ourselves concealed, launching the airstrikes at the Iowa. Colorado is almost on his way back to port, and of course the friendly battleship, which was a Bismarck, goes down. I kind of expected that to happen. The Colorado shouldn't be far behind him, but at this point, we have lost 4 ships, one of which is the CV. We saw his demise coming into the future moments ago, and it has come to pass. So we've lost 4 ships. Enemy team has lost 2. It has been both of their destroyers, which, puts them at a theoretical disadvantage, but they do still have their CV, which I think might be a Saipan itself. And in any case, the team has managed to capture Bravo. We are going back toward Charlie, though, because we can see on the minimap that at least one cruiser and battleship are headed in that direction, and we want to intercept them. Iowa is still floating, but he's got torpedoes from the friendly destroyer coming his way. Looks like they're going to miss. He's only got about 10,000 HP left, though, and he does appear to be on a perma-fire or perma-flood. So one well-placed airstrike should be enough to send him to the bottom of the sea, clear this flank, and then from that point on, we can head back toward Charlie. And there he goes for our first kill of the game. Now, at least in terms of ship count, well, I spoke too soon. I was going to say at least in terms of ship count, it's even, and it was until the friendly Wichita went down from, I think, the CV there. Now we're 1 ship behind, and the rest of the enemy fleet is sort of over in the Alpha Cap. I don't know yet if any of them are headed back toward Bravo. We do have 1 cruiser, I think, in the mouth of the Two Brothers Channel at the Bravo side, so they could be going to intercept him. But really, it's me and the friendly destroyer next to me that are going to have the most impact on the rest of this battle. There is 1 destroyer somewhere between Bravo and Delta over there, and he's just spotted 2 cruisers. But if I'm not entirely mistaken, both of the enemy, well, 2 out of 3 of the enemy team's remaining cruisers are Belfast 43s, or maybe one's a regular Belfast. In any case, they have radar, and the enemy CV is flying torpedo bombers toward the DD. In fact, I was thinking, well, things might be going somewhat okay, because now that the map positions of the rest of the Reds have been revealed, they're all concentrated in 1 corner. They're between Alpha and Bravo, clearly headed back toward Bravo in an attempt to reflip the cap. They take out one of the last remaining friendly cruiser, leaving just me and the 2 destroyers left. So things have gone south pretty quickly. But even so, we do have the advantage on caps right now, and Alpha, at least theoretically, is open to us, even if the enemy fleet is going to manage to take Bravo. Of course, they are going to sink that friendly DD as well. He's being harassed by CVs. He's well within the radar range of the Belfast 43, and he's got almost no HP left. I suspect he is spotted by that radar because he does go down, and that just leaves me and the friendly destroyer you see here 0.2 kilometers away from my ship left alive. This destroyer, the Sasashio B, is, I think, a good player. He's done pretty well up until this point, and he seems to know what is required in order to win this game. He and I, though, if we have any hope of securing the victory here, are going to be the only ones we can rely on to do it. And the big problem right now is the enemy CV. Now, of course, he can't really spot us for his teammates, but he can reveal our positions on the map for them so that they've got a better idea of where to go in order to locate us. And of course, he can do monstrous damage to either me or the destroyer if he lands a good drop. He's coming for me, but D7 Provincians anti-aircraft firepower is nothing to shake a stick at. I think we managed to take out his full squadron there. It might not have been a completely full squadron because only 6 planes get shot down, but still, we eliminate the threat for the moment, and as far as we can tell, the way to the Alpha Cap is clear. The enemy team might be able to flip Bravo, but by all indications, they're going to come down the channel next. And hopefully we can flip Alpha. We are a little bit behind on points, but we do have a majority of caps, at least for the moment. As soon as the enemy team flips Bravo, which of course occurs right now, well, then we've got an equal income of points, courtesy of both of the caps, and since they are ahead of us, they're going to stay ahead of us. We need to either start sinking them or acquire and hold a majority of caps so that we can overtake them on points. The situation is close at 606 to 659, but don't forget the enemy CV. He's coming back now. Perhaps he has learned his lesson from trying to strike the D7P. He appears to be going for the Asashio, but the Asashio deploys one of the only counters that existed for carriers before the rework and still continues to exist. That is the smoke screen. If the CV cannot see the Asashio at all, he's going to have a hard time dropping the Asashio, and so he goes for me. But he makes a crucial error. I think he must be built for concealment because we only spot him at like 10.6 kilometers. But the autopilot, I suspect, is heading him straight toward us. And all of his teammates are gone, so he's got nobody to defend him. And of course, a CV, well, it can try to defend itself, but it really needs to do it from a place where it's not spotted. Certainly sailing into the guns and airstrikes of D7P and the torpedoes of Asashio is not going to be a recipe for success here. Saipan does manage to drop us with a torpedo from the sky, which causes a flooding. We have to put that out. And his teammates are beginning to shoot at us now because he is actually spotting us with his hull. We get the high caliber metal farming the Saipan, nice source of damage and also a nice source of XP. The HE is doing all right damage to his hull, but hopefully once he straightens out his angle, we can get this AP in there, maybe Citadel him and send him to the bottom a little faster. We don't have to do that. The Asashio manages to take him out, but we are still spotted by, well, never mind. We are not now. The CV goes down, and we go dark. We're on fire. It's a permanent fire, but it's not going to be lethal. And we know that one of the cruisers is still over by Bravo, the other is still over by Charlie. Now we are head on points. And if we stay alive and manage to defend the 2 caps we have, we should win. But of course, we are facing 2 Belfast 43s. And they have utility, which I simply don't. The utility is, of course, the radar. It appears the Asashio has been caught by the radar, or perhaps something else. Took a little bit of damage from both of the Belfasts there, but he is managing to get away. The problem is we are trapped between this Belfast 43 and the one over there on the Bravo cap. And here we are going to see sort of the major downside of the D7P. While it's a very fun ship to use, and while the airstrikes can be effective, you do need, I think, a combination of both the airstrikes and the main guns to do effective damage against enemy ships. Even something like the Belfast 43, which, much like D7P, is a light cruiser. Although it's got better guns, arguably, and probably better DPM with those guns. Of course, the Belfasts are laser-focused on the Asashio. They do manage to take him out, which is tragic. That's going to leave me alone versus these 2 cruisers in the final dying minute of the game. So there is a solo warrior here up for grabs. I think all we really have to do is sink one of these Belfasts. And if we can manage that, then we will win, narrowly, by points, and we will get a solo warrior. Little over 30 seconds left, though. Both Belfasts, well, one of them's not spotted. This one is. He's a little bit at more than half health. We hesitate before we open fire on him, which perhaps was a mistake, but the goal was to find this Belfast 43 because he's only got about 2 bars of HP left, which is roughly 10k. One airstrike out at him as we hit the map border and begin to do the T-Bowl shuffle, but The Belfast 43 manages to avoid the airstrike, probably because we didn't lead it enough. We send a second one his way. That one does manage to connect, but it's not quite enough to take him out. And so we lose the game. I think if we had taken out that Belfast 43, we might have won. But I'm not too upset about it. We finished with 2,600 base XP and 163,000 damage, which I think is good for the D7P. But 1 point of damage more from those airstrikes, 1 more bomb, and I think we might have won that match. So is D7P a carry-capable ship? Maybe. The jury's still out on that one, but I think it's at least a decent ship. So, I hope you enjoyed the video. If so, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.